It's Wednesday. You know what that means. Time for the Southern California Writers Association Hump Day Book Tour. I'm your host, Maddie Margarita, here with Diana Pardee on tech. Every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m., we turn our Facebook page over to a new writer to talk about their books and their work. This morning, we are pleased to have with us Kenneth R. Strange. Ken was born in Brooklyn, New York, a former Spanish-speaking FBI Special Agent, DOJ Special Agent in charge, current PI and author. Ken has come out with a new law enforcement memoir, A Cop's Son, One G-Man's Fight Against Jihad, Global Fraud, and the Cartels. Based upon a career with 3 distinguished federal agencies, Ken takes the reader behind fortress-like doors into the secret world of terrorists, financial predators, and sicarios. Well, we're glad that you're with us if we're going into those worlds, Ken. The book also pays homage to his father, a 38-year veteran of the New York Police Department, who rose to the rank of deputy chief and whose career briefly overlapped with the authors. Ken's first book, It's Your Camino, One Couple's 500-mile pilgrimage across Spain, was published in 2019, receiving IPPY and Catholic Media Awards, Catholic Media Association Award. Long life writer, Ken was inspired to write by Bradbury and Hamill, both of whom he had the profound pleasure of meeting. Ken and his wife, Aurora, make their home in Thousand Oaks, California. Okay, now we have that out of the way, and everybody knows everything they need to know about you, Ken.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks for having me, by the way. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited that you're here, and I'm excited that the book is out, the new book. I was reading about it, and it sounds really interesting. But it's a memoir, right? Or
Yeah, exactly. It's a law enforcement memoir. It actually comes out on, I'm hearing Saturday, which is interesting because that's my twin daughters. That's their birthday, and my grandmother was also born on that day.
That's a lucky day, Ken.
Oh, we hope.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I know that you have like a long law enforcement background in history and culture in your family, but what inspired you to write the book, and how difficult was it with this career that you've had to string together a story that hit the high points or the theme that you wanted?
Well, that's a great question, and I remember meeting with a vendor while I was working at a security company. This was after my career was over. And so I was having lunch with this vendor, and he said, hey, your background seems pretty interesting, fascinating. You were an FBI agent. So he asked me, he said, could you tell me a story? So I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll try to protect sources and methods. So I gave him a story, and he said, wow, that's amazing. You should be writing a book. And and I started to think, maybe I should, maybe some of these experiences other people might be interested in, they might like them. And so that really that got me going.
And then with all the stories that you had and all the experiences you've had, both professionally, but in all of your careers, how did you decide what stories to use and how to tell the story?
That's a great question. Of course, I had to go back through 3 agencies, through cases, investigations in each one of them, and really go to the ones that left an impression on me. Some of it wonderful, going back into the past and saying that was fantastic. I enjoyed it. That was successful, whatever. But there were some others that were, the person got away. I didn't do it. There was regret. I didn't complete the investigation, didn't get the person who was committing the crimes. And then there were some ones with very, human touch, human feelings behind it. The Russian spy who died tragically, that was a friend of mine. So all of these things I thought should come to the surface. They should be the stories that I should tell. And I think that, if they moved me, they might move others.
Well, it has a sense of true crime to it. So I think that will appeal to not only people who be interested in people who have a life like yours, but also people who are interested in true crime and the way that some of these cases progressed And the fact that you don't always get, it's not like Law and Order that you can wrap everything up in a 45 minutes with commercials or an hour with commercials.
Right. Yeah. Call a bus, Olivia, call a bus.
Yeah, that's right. That's always a bad sign when they call a bus.
I know.
So just to give our readers or our listeners a sense of the book, is there one story in particular in here, without giving away the whole book, that you could share with us, just to give us a sense of what we might be in for when we're reading the book?
I mean,
Sure.
that's hard because you know, there are some adventure pieces in there. There are some, and again, because the book is, Maddie, is broken down into three sections. My first life with the Joint Terrorism Task Force on a squad called C10 that, you know, had a little swagger, a little confidence, a little, you know, but a great, looking back, a great squad. There was a lot going on there, but this was in the realm of foreign counterintelligence and counterterrorism. So there's that.
With the FBI, right?
In the FBI, that's right. And then in the second section, I'm with one of these alphabet agencies overseas, and you know, I'm traveling in Central South America, and you know, I'm on the Mosquito Coast, going up the coast on a 3-hour trip to meet with Mosquito indigenous peoples, you know, and almost being killed in a storm. So it's kind of a, talk about wild ride. And then finally, I end up on the southwest border in the third part of the book with an internal affairs unit with the Department of Justice, playing cat and mouse with the Mexican cartels who are trying to corrupt our gatekeepers and getting involved with sources. And an episode that's, you know, you can find it on Wikipedia, the House of Death in Juarez. You know, I'm sucked into that with some of my colleagues. So, you know, it's hard to say. There's one story which has a Cuban piece to it. I worked mostly Middle East terrorism because I had lived in the Middle East and I knew the area. I could speak some Arabic as well, but with the Spanish speaking, and thank you, Mr. Grossi from Bayport High School. Thank you for that, Mr. Watts, Mr. Oakley Wood. But you know, armed with that, you know, they asked me to fill in with Cuban intelligence matters, and all of a sudden, I found myself in a pretty interesting situation. And you know, I can't give it away, but you know, with Cuban leaders. So it's kind of a crazy thing, but I like that story. Of course, the one with the Russian spy is kind of a tragic story, and every time I look at that, it's kind of it's moving. But I'd say maybe those two stories, and at the end, my last story is about a corrupt border patrol agent who is a canine handler and has been proficient in his corruption for many years. And this is kind of the person that gets away, but doesn't get away in the end, if you know what I mean. You can run, but you can't hide.
I'm afraid I do.
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny. Can people don't know, we may not know, you and I went to high school together.
That's unbelievable. It's unbelievable when I think about it.
It is, and neither one of us thought that we would end up where we are today. So it's interesting to me that you have done so much, you know, language and travel. You're a Spanish speaker, you speak some Arabic, obviously English, and you've traveled extensively and had these amazing careers. I never pictured you as an adrenaline junkie in high school. But was that always there, or did that evolve, or how did that happen? Is that an accurate perception, or?
Yeah, I think that's a very good perception. I think most people in high school would say, oh, you know, you're kind of the nice guy in you know, if anything. But I think it kind of evolved, and I think by the time I had gone through Quantico and had kind of found my place within the FBI, you know, I think it was good for me. It kind of toughened me up, and you know, I was actually seeing things around me that this can be a cruel world, and there are people out there that are not going to be nice with me and don't care about being nice with me and would kill me in a heartbeat or kill Americans in a heartbeat. So it kind of toughens you up, and I did notice that about myself. And people did say, you've changed a little bit.
How does that feel when people say, gee, you used to be such a nice guy then?
Yeah, well, I told my daughters, I said, look, if you read this book, take it with a grain of salt, because it's not I'm not the Camino Ken in with the FBI and with the federal government. It's a little bit, I've got an edge. That's what.
Yeah. Well, you could say that. I prefer to call it depth. Let's call it depth.
Depth.
So
Yeah.
so you came out of high school to college,
Right.
and I know that you have this legacy of law enforcement in your family. Did you know that you wanted to go into the FBI? Is that something that you thought about? Did you have other options, or were you saying, okay, this is the family business, this is where I'm going?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, I was headed toward, I had become a teacher out of college, and I was teaching at LaSalle Military Academy, which I did for 2 years, and I was teaching Spanish and I was teaching English to foreigners. And then, I got this opportunity overseas in Saudi Arabia to teach. So I did that for a number of years. So it was kind of like I was trying to find myself and try to find, but all of it was, to me, it was quite an adventure. Everything was an adventure. And I think once I kind of walked through that door, and took that flight to Saudi Arabia, it kind of started the ball rolling, kind of changed me. Then I knew that, I have to go back to school and be a serious student and get a graduate degree. And then from there, this FBI recruiter came onto the campus, and nice fella, and he said, we're looking for people like you that have lived overseas and that can speak a language or two, and we think you might make a good fit in the bureau. So, and it was like, okay, whatever. And I talked to my father, and I said, Dad, I really like cops, and he says, well, don't be a cop. You have a college degree. If you're going to be a cop, become a Fed. And so that was kind of in the back of my mind. So, finally, I was interviewed in New York, and, kind of the rest was history.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting that you have the self-awareness. I guess as a writer, you need to be self-aware, especially if you're going through this process of how you've changed. And so do you think if you had written this book at another time, it would be different? I guess I'm saying, look, what has your perspective changed on what you've done and these jobs looking back, as opposed to when you were deep in the thick of it? And how has that changed?
I mean, I think you're right. I think writing it at this stage in my life, looking back and looking back at all these people and all these situations, and doing the research that has to be done, to tell it right. It was kind of it was kind of nice, because I could kind of relax and think about it. Why did this occur? Who were the actors here? What were the emotions? What were the criminal parameters that we were dealing with? All of those things. So I think this was probably the best time for me to write these things.
So I was reading some of the blurbs from some of the people who blurbed your book.
Right.
I was so impressed. I was like, okay, do I need to have a security clearance to read this?
That's a good point. Bringing up a good point, by the way.
Yeah. So was it difficult to get this book published? Did you have to go through a process where they said, okay, you can talk about this? Or in your own mind, did you say, okay, these things are dangerous, I'm not going to talk about these things, might be dangerous to me going forward?
Right.
If things are made public?
It was an odyssey, Maddie, to kind of bring this to publication, because of the restrictions put on me by the FBI's pre-publication review unit. So, you know, what they do is, you know, I guess I've signed some kind of an agreement when I first joined, and they're holding you to that. And some people, some agents actually ignore it, but I didn't feel comfortable doing that, and I didn't want to end up in a lawsuit.
Right.
So, you know, I submitted my manuscript, and now you can imagine, not only is the FBI interested, but there are two other stakeholders, justice and that overseas agency, right? So everybody takes a whack at your manuscript. So what surprised me was the fact that I was expecting redactions in certain stories where I said, oh, they're definitely going to redact that. No, there's no question about it. And other stories, I said, no, that's going to fly. And the reverse happened in some of these cases. You know, things that I thought would go right through were redacted. I mean, one story was cut in half, and other stuff where I'm like, that's, I don't know. I mean, if that were me, I'd be putting that black right through that, and that flew right through, and I'm like, whoa, you know, amazing. Now there was some instances where I had to negotiate with them. I learned how to negotiate. I said, absolutely not. I need that in there. Okay, well, here's what we can do. Can you write with this and maybe create a cover story for that person? And so now I'm writing a cover story. Now I'm into a little bit of fiction in order to get the idea through. So we did that as well. And like I said, one of the stories that I was really excited about was, and you'll see it if you read it, is half destroyed. And so that prompted me to do another story, which I'm glad they did that, because the other story that came on the back of that was a pretty good story. I thought. I mean, I thought, you know, I should have thought about that earlier, but now it's in there just to make up for that one story that I lost.
Well, I think it's interesting now. Is this one of the situations where you think you're out and they pull you back in? Are you still actively? I know you're a licensed PI in California. Are you still involved in that, or?
No, Maddie. I'm just a member of the Society of the Former FBI Agents. I'll go to maybe quarterly meetings out here in Los Angeles and meet maybe Christopher Wray comes in. We all meet Christopher Wray, the director, things like that. But no, I don't have any. I'm certainly not working for the FBI. I have nothing. I'm retired from all of that. But the PI work has been interesting, and in fact, I was talking to one literary agent, and he kind of pulled me aside and he said, "Look, you should be writing from what you know. That is what you ought to do. So, with your PI experience, with your law enforcement, write from that, and don't drift off into other things. If you want to make a mark in this business."
That sounds like good advice.
Yeah, I think so.
So, I could talk to you for another hour and a half, but they get mad at me.
Same here. Same here. You're pretty good, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So you read this book or wrote this book, and you finished it. You sent it. You put it through all of these processes. It's been vetted, and so now it's out there, and it will be out there. Hopefully, when did you say it's going to be out there in the mail?
Saturday would be April 29th. That's what the publisher told me. That's the target.
Okay. So April 29th. So now, because you're out here and so many people are exposed to your work, they're going to be running out and ordering it and reading it. So what is it that you hope that they take away from the book, or feel or experience when they're finished, when they close that last page, and they say, okay, I'm done with A Cop's Son? Mm-hmm. What is it that you hope that they take away?
I hope that they can take away the amazing work that the men and women in law enforcement do on a daily basis. Every day that you go out there could be, I don't want to sound too pessimistic, but it could be your last day on earth. So knowing that and knowing the sacrifice that men and women make, whether they're police, state troopers, federal agents, and even some of our overseas colleagues, and even foreign police forces that we work with, that I worked with, like the Mexican police force. I just want people to come away with a better understanding of what it's like to deal with some of these situations, some of the cases, and some of the personalities, some of the bad actors that are out there. That's what I want the reader to get a sense of.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I will order it right away, and hopefully you'll come back and talk about El Camino. A Cop's Son is not your first book.
Right.
You took the El Camino pilgrimage. How many miles did you do the full thing?
Yes, the whole enchilada, the 500 miles in 31 days, and I'm still married to my wife.
And you guys did it together, and I think that's amazing. So maybe you'll come back and we can talk about that book and that experience.
I'd love to, Maddie. Thank you so much for having me. Really, it's been a pleasure.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. I know you'll keep writing.
I hope so. Yeah, I think so. After I get through all the marketing.
And to all our friends on Long Island who I'm going to send this out to, hi from us, hi from Ken and I. We made it this far.
Yes.
And to all our viewers on the Hump Day book tour, thank you for joining us this morning. If you enjoyed our interview with Ken, which I'm sure you did, and you'd like to share it on Facebook, please feel free. Otherwise, you can go to our YouTube channel, which is SCWA Writers Online, and find our interview with Ken Strange, as well as hundreds of interviews. Well, that's an exaggeration, over 100 interviews. So if you're looking for a great book to read, you have lots of choices, and I hope that you'll support our authors, support Ken, buy his book. If somebody lends it to you, please write a review. Reviews are as helpful as purchasing to a writer, so please do what you can, and we will see you next week on the SCWA Hump Day book tour. Bye, Ken.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe.
Thank you so much, Maddie. It was great seeing you, and this was amazing. Amazing.
Like I said, who knew, Ken?
I know. I was thinking the same thing. Come a long way. Come a long way.
All right. Bye-bye. Take care.